Can you hear me? Nick. Nick. Hello? I can't hear you.
All right, now can you?
Yeah, I got you now.
Let's go.
At 9:30, if he's not here, should we just call that number that he picked up on?
Wait till like 9:35.
Okay.
Give him a little bit of time.
Yeah.
Do you have the questions written down?
Yeah, I texted their email to you as well.
Okay. Yeah, I saw that. I was just trying to figure out a way to look at them and the meeting.
You know, Hayden never did the pre-sys that he'd said that he was going to do.
Sweet. All right, so which questions do you want to do?
We can just take off questions.
Okay, just every other one.
Yeah. Do something else. Then we just say it, you know.
Mm-hmm. Sounds like a plan. I haven't put a tie on and
forever. I was like tying this thing in the mirror. I was like, did I get it?
Really?
Yeah, I think I started the meeting at 9:25. So I think it was a 40-minute meeting because I have Zoom Basic.
Oh shit, I gotta join my bio class in the middle of this. Awkward. Check your email, AP bio class.
Oh no, it's snow day today. You see that?
Snow day today?
Yeah,
What?
snow day.
Why does it say 10:05? Oh, here it says.
It was any assignment that was due today will be due Thursday.
For real?
Yep.
Yay. Wait, is there actually snow somewhere?
I mean, if it's snowing in 51, that'd be pretty crazy, right?
Oh, she's just doing that just to be nice. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, thank God, dude, because I fell asleep so early last night.
Really?
Yeah.
That's nice.
Probably like 8.
Damn. 8? So if this dude doesn't show, I'm gonna be pissed.
I might just call that number right now.
No, wait like 5 minutes.
Mm,
If you think about it, you could have like trouble with the link or something.
Yeah. I'm going down. I don't know if I told you. I'm going down to Oxy on Tuesday and training with the team.
Oh, really?
I'm so scared. I'm so scared.
Are you coming back like
Yeah, I'm gonna leave Monday night and then come back on
Wednesday or
Tuesday
something?
night.
Oh, Tuesday night, damn. That's gonna be a short trip.
Yeah, it's just to go down there, meet the guys.
Yeah. It'll be good.
And then, oh yeah, you just train with us. What? I wasn't planning on doing training with you.
I just wanted to see you guys. I didn't want to train.
Got that speaker connected to the aux, connected to the Xbox.
Oh my god. Yeah,
Oh, yeah.
everything.
If you want to just watch Netflix, you just pump out some music.
For real.
Okay, Patrick, not cool.
It's only been 2 minutes.
Trace. 2 minutes, I'll call that number.
Yeah. 5 minutes is a good buffer.
Yeah. I feel like he just totally forgot, but has nothing going on.
Probably. Why does Sarah follow this girl?
Sarah's in there, bro.
Some girl doing the transfer plan.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Excited?
Yeah, except that I don't know where the fuck I'm gonna go.
You got this.
Yeah.
Away from your family for like 4 months, then another 4 months or something.
They'll come. They're gonna like live there pretty much.
They are?
No, they're gonna come visit a lot. No.
No,
gonna
I
visit,
don't want
like,
you. I don't want
Twice
you.
a semester or something like that.
Mom, no, please. Please no.
It'll be kind of nice because I'm literally just gonna be alone for
Yeah, it's true.
6 months.
You need to come home for Thanksgiving?
No. Christmas though.
Big Thanksgiving on your own?
Yeah. I mean, I just have school. It's not a holiday over there, so.
Oh, that's right. Oh my God. Everyone should celebrate our holidays. You kidding?
No. The Czech Republic has a bunch of weird ass holidays, so.
That'll be nice.
Yeah.
Hello? Who is this? Hi. I'm looking for 1 second. Is this Patrick? Hi, Patrick. This is John. I was calling to see if you're going to be able to hop on that Zoom meeting still today at 9:30. Yeah, I did. Perfect. You get the email? All right, awesome. See you then. Bye. Dude, so forgot about it.
I mean, I don't blame him. It's a meeting with 2 high school kids.
Yeah.
He's got so much other stuff on his mind.
I was like, what's his name again? Shoot. I got to find. Is this Patrick?
I thought you were looking for the last name or something. I thought that's why you were.
Yeah, I was. I couldn't find it, so I was like, Patrick. But it's like,
Okay.
I would have butchered it so hard.
Yeah. It's,
McDowell.
yeah, it looked a little funky. Trying to figure out like the best distance to like have this thing.
I was like, I just really hope my bed isn't super messy. Like he comes in, just like in my room, the bed's all messy.
Yeah, I was gonna try to use the office, but my dad's like blah blah blah. I'm using it. All right.
I don't think I get as good as a connection in the office.
Oh really? That's weird. I feel
You
like you
said-
should have more connection there.
I know. The Wi-Fi in this house is so janky. My dad like pays like so much money to try to get it perfect, and it just sucks. Like it's just so bad. Like he buys like
It's where everyone has to deal with that.
he buys all the boosters that go in the wall and everything. It just does not work. It does nothing.
It always happens.
I'm definitely getting a new computer for college though, because I need way more space on the computer.
Yeah, same. I'm getting a brand new computer.
Getting a new MacBook, whatever the nicest little thing, the most space. I just want the most space. It doesn't actually need to be that nice. It just needs a lot of space.
Yeah, that's fair.
I always run out of space. My
I
my
just want
phone is
something
running
that.
out of space.
Yeah, same. My phone has 0 space on it right now.
Yeah, it's like I try to send a picture. Sorry, picture can't render. No space. What are you talking about? So I just like go delete some random apps I haven't used for like 6 years.
Yeah, I'd either do that or delete multiple copies of pictures.
Oh, we should start with his background too. That's what I was thinking.
Start with the background.
Yeah, like where'd you go to college? Or where'd you go to college? How long have you been with the Seattle Police Department?
Yeah, we should, and then we also might want to say a little bit about ourselves too.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a good idea.
Why does it look so funky when you like flex your like cheekbone?
I don't know.
Looks like that meme of the weekend.
For real.
Okay, big old PK. You Rick. Are you practicing today?
Probably lightly, yeah.
So they said, oh, hip flexor.
Yeah, but it's just not my hip flexor. My doctor came in, looked at me for like 5 minutes, like, all right, see ya. Thanks.
That's
For the PT on Monday.
That's different, right? PT's different than what you went to.
Yeah. Hi, Patrick.
Hello.
How's it going?
Good. How are you?
Good.
Pretty good.
My name's John Bosworth. I'm a senior at Eastside Catholic.
My name's Nick Bashan, also a senior.
So basically, we're doing a research project about how the SPD has been impacted through defund the police and other means like that.
Sure.
So we just wanted to get an opportunity to speak with somebody that's actually in the police department to see what it's like from the inside perspective.
Yeah.
First off, I just want did you grow up in Seattle?
I did not. Actually, I grew up in Cleveland. I ended up here through some time in the Army. Ended up getting out of the Army back in 2008 and have been here ever since.
Nice. How do you like it here?
It's a lot better than Cleveland.
Yeah, it's pretty nice here.
Yeah.
So did you go to college after, or did you go straight into the Army?
No, I did. I went to art school actually for video and film production at the Art Institute of Pittsburgh. Graduated there, joined the Army, was a radio DJ for them. Ended up getting out of the Army. I know it's a weird job, but took me all over the world. That was pretty cool. Got out of the Army, did patrol up on Capitol Hill for a little bit, and now I do public affairs work for the police department.
Nice.
So we'll start off with some questions. So how has defund the police affected you?
My day-to-day work, not much, honestly. The biggest thing that we've been noticing is that it is becoming a little bit more difficult to hire new officers, as people start to see that this might not be a career option. They don't necessarily want to invest time in something that they aren't going to be able to do for the 20, 25 years that a career might last.
Yeah, that's actually a very good point. Thank you. And then how do you think, like, so this kind of is similar. How do you think defund the police has affected the department?
I think it's very, very similar across the board and across the nation at this point, where they're starting to notice smaller things like that will turn into bigger. I don't want to say issues, because it's just it's a hiccup right now as far as hiring, and hiring for public sector jobs really relies on the economy. So as the economy starts to go in the tank and people lose their jobs, they go to public sector jobs like police departments, because those jobs don't go away when businesses close. So right now, as businesses start opening back up from the pandemic, and just in general, the economy starts getting better, police departments don't look like a great place to work, because there's bad hours, the pay isn't great typically, and you deal with the worst parts of people's days on a daily basis. You're always seeing people at their worst. And you could go work at a factory, or you could go work in an office, and you could put in your 9 to 5, get paid better, and have better just quality of life when that's an option. So it's one of those things that I think we're just starting to see a downward trend in hiring and people wanting to come work for us. Whether or not it's connected to defund remains to be seen at this point. It's still a little early. The defund movement is really only a year and a half old at this point. So it's hard to say that there's a trend without having the 3 years of data, is the way we really look at it. And we would treat anything the same way. Like when we're talking about crime trends, we only start with 3 years of data when we're talking about a trend. If you see something spike, all of a sudden there's a reason, but is it the beginning of a trend? It's too early to tell. So it might go down the next month. So it's really hard to say that anything is kind of able to be tracked back to defund at this point.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. After your 20, 25 years, is there a pension involved with the Seattle Police Department?
Pension, no, but we have a retirement that we pay into.
Okay, yeah.
So every month you can choose to put money into your retirement, and then the city matches up to a certain point.
Yep.
You go past that every year, they will stop paying in, but and then it goes into just a normal like retirement account that works off the stock market. So if the stock market's doing great, my retirement's doing great. If it's not, then my retirement's not, and it might be pushed back a year based on how much money I think I might need for retirement. We also pay into a second retirement account for the state, where it's called LEF2, LEOFF2. And it's both the fire department and the police departments statewide all pay into a system that does the same thing. And based on the amount of time you work, you get a certain amount back. So we're all paying for everybody else's retirement as well. So that's an option. I think the pension idea, that went away a long time ago. The closest thing that we ever had to a pension in Washington was under LEF 1, where you worked for 25 years, you retired with like 85% of your monthly income, and that was it. Like, that's all you had to do. You never really paid in that much. So yeah, that idea is long gone at this point.
So you mentioned earlier how it's like kind of been hard to hire new officers at this time. And like, I get like, is there really much of an incentive to like be a police officer?
Well, we do have extraordinarily good medical, which for a lot of people is the reason they stick around, myself included. There have been job offers to work for places like Amazon and Facebook, but the medical benefits aren't as good. And I have a wife and a kid that's your age, and I just need to make sure that I can take care of them if need be. And both my wife and I were in the military, so our bodies are broken at this point. So we need to be able to take care of ourselves. So it's one of those things that if that's an option, I'm gonna have to take it. So that's one of the really good things. We get up to 30 days paid vacation every year, which is great. Our overtime, anytime over 8 hours or 9 hours a day is time and a half. So that's really nice. You get double time on the 4th of July, which everybody ends up having to work every year anyways. The hours, they work good for some people. They work really bad for other people. So if you have a family, like a young family, the hours work really well because you can work from like 7 at night until 4 in the morning. And you can be home with baby all day until somebody else can come home, because most families are dual income families now. So if mom needs to go to work during the day and dad is a cop, it's a pretty good way to kind of make sure there's still somebody at home and you aren't paying for childcare, and the kid always has a parent there, which is a nice option.
That's very interesting. That's a good point.
Since the whole defund the police movement, was that about a year and a half ago, and all the Capitol riots, have any of your friends left the department because of that, or have you thought about leaving just because of those movements?
Just because of those movements, no. I haven't seen anybody leave specifically because of that. There have been a bunch of people that I know that have left for other reasons, including lack of support from the city in general. It's hard to continue to go to work and have to go enforce laws when you don't necessarily have the support of the people who you're supposed to be helping. So that can be a tough thing for some people to get past in their head. Myself, no. Again, it kind of goes back to the benefits for me. The benefits of being here and working here truly do outweigh the option of going somewhere else.
So also kind of like a side question. You said you're a detective, right?
Yes.
Okay, so like, I'm just curious, how do you become a detective from starting out as just like a regular officer?
Sure. Yeah. So for us, hey, Jonah, for us, you've got to put in 3 years in patrol before you can apply to go work as a detective. So it's like getting another job. And they look at everything from your job performance to the interview that you do with their boss there, the sergeant, the lieutenant, the captain. and whether or not you would be a good fit for that squad. So like if I wanted to go to homicide and do homicide investigations, I don't have a good background in it. So I wouldn't necessarily be a good fit for that. I do have a background in this public affairs work where I go and answer people's questions about various topics. I've done that for decades now. So this job is a really good fit. Still had to apply for it. And I was lucky to get it. But there's a lot of that. So if I wanted to go do crash investigations, which is something that I'm actually interested in doing, I've taken extra classes on my own time to learn how to do those. So I could, if a job ever opened up and it was the right time for me, I could apply for it and possibly get that job. So it's the same way with you guys. Like if you want to go be a reporter, you're going to go to J school and figure all that out before you ever apply for those jobs, right? So you got to get the training before you can work to become a journalist or a detective.
Okay,
Oh,
very interesting.
yes. Now we see kind of what a common theme that we keep hearing is like a lack of training, or just there hasn't been enough training for the officers on the ground that have to deal with traffic stops or just people being people down in downtown Seattle. Do you think that Washington has taken any steps towards training more officers, or have they kind of taken, are you guys losing money and losing funds because of that?
So we do a lot of training here at the Seattle Police Department. I think all of our officers at this point have been crisis intervention trained. So we've got a point where we made a specific effort to get everybody trained in how to deal with people in crisis, so that when we run across somebody who needs assistance, we don't have to wait on somebody to show up, right? That call might devolve before somebody ever gets there. So we're all trained in how to deal with that. Sometimes we don't necessarily dictate how that goes, and it can go sideways before we ever have a chance to kind of figure out what's going on. But that's not the only training we have. I have a list of trainings I've got to do every year, where we're constantly going back through the things that we have to be on top of. Even as a detective, I'm going through patrol trainings. So because we're all patrol officers at heart, we could all go back to patrol at any given time. So we're all up to date on all of our trainings, our first aid stuff, everything. So when people talk about defunding, that money's not coming from training, because all of the officers that have to be here still need to get those trainings. And the state is doing a great job of ensuring that officers outside of Seattle, who don't necessarily, cities and counties that don't necessarily have a ton of money to dedicate to law enforcement and training and things like that, the state is making sure that those officers are getting that training. So Washington as a whole is doing much better than a lot of the other states in the country.
Okay, yeah, Nick, just a quick question here. Do you think that, so you do think Washington is doing a lot better than other states, and that's why we're kind of staying out of the media? I mean, obviously there's a ton of media going around right now. So do you think Seattle's doing this specifically and it's working?
There's always room for improvement, right? I would be horribly remiss in my statement if I didn't say that we could always do better. We're always trying to find new ways to handle evolving situations. We're always looking at new tools to help us keep from hurting people. Like, that is a goal for us as a department. The biggest problem we have right now is people complaining about handcuff pain. So when we finally go arrest somebody, handcuffs, they're solid steel. Like, they're not made for comfort. They never were. But if we can resolve how that happens and how that injury happens, then we could cut our complaints of pain and injury and force nearly in half, because that's where all of these complaints start. When those handcuffs go on, people are uncomfortable and they complain that it hurts. That's a use of force to us. So if we can stop that from happening, great, right? That basically fixes half of the problems that people complain about in Seattle with the police department is use of force. So we're actively looking for tools. We're working with companies who have new emerging tech to help us figure this out. So hopefully here in the next year and a half, we should have something to help us kind of drive this resolution that we've been looking for a very long time. And it's one of those things that we take extraordinarily seriously is trying to keep people from getting injured while they're in our care, because we're not here to harm people. We're here as a way to resolve an issue. And that issue should not end up hurting someone or killing someone.
That's actually very interesting. I never really thought about that, and that like makes a lot of sense, because yeah, handcuffs do not look very comfortable. So I guess
they aren't.
Yeah, I guess yeah, it wouldn't be too pleasant to be in them. A few more questions. Like, kind of more generally, do you like feel safe in your job and like as a police officer, like when you're out in the public? Yeah. Yes.
In general, I do. If I don't, it's because I put myself in a situation that I then have to work my way out of, right? If I have to go to a call where there's a fight going on or a domestic violence situation, we have to go to that, right? We can't just say, you know what, no, I don't really feel safe going to that. Okay, well, I've got to go to that. So how do I make it as safe as possible for me and for everybody else so that nobody here gets hurt? Because I'm going home to my family. If I can do everything in my power to make that happen, I want to make sure that everybody else involved here also goes back to their family, right? So while yes, I have put myself in questionable situations, I've always figured out ways to kind of work through it and come to that resolution where I don't get hurt and they don't get hurt.
What would you tell another department about how Seattle's doing, like how they're managing this? Because I think we live in a super liberal spot of the country, and oftentimes it's you're seeing with we got to defund the heck out of these police, and we need to not send police to all the calls, and maybe they're not a one-stop shop. Like, what would you tell those people, and what would you tell other departments?
I would say that yeah, they're probably right. Officers are being asked to handle calls that they weren't necessarily trained in how to handle. That being said, they're cops, so they're going to go to those calls and they're going to try to figure out a resolution to it. There is some new ideas coming around about how to handle those types of calls that cops don't necessarily need to be going to, and maybe the fire department doesn't need to be going to. Maybe handle with like a community service officer or something like that that isn't a cop but gets dispatched the same way. So they go to things like stolen car reports, things that have low risk of there being a weapon involved. And then you have things like crisis calls, somebody who is feeling suicidal, but doesn't really have a plan, no weapons involved. Maybe they've taken too many Tylenol or something like that, which happens way more than I'd like to admit. But you could send maybe a community service officer and a mental health worker to these calls to resolve them in a way that doesn't necessarily involve police, because it's not illegal to hurt yourself. It's not illegal to have a mental health issue. So why are we sending law enforcement these calls? And that is something that we as a police department need to come to terms with. Like, do we really need to be going to all these calls? No. Is it okay if a community service officer goes to them? Yeah. Does it get resolved? Yeah. If they need a cop, they can get a cop. We'll still go, but if we don't need to introduce law enforcement into it for something, why would we then? And I think that's what a lot of departments, a lot of cities, and a lot of counties are starting to come to terms with. And I think the bigger issue is going to be funding. How do we fund these new programs that come around? Because when you have most of the police departments in the country only have like 8 officers, it's like a crazy low number. So these guys and gals aren't getting paid anything. They're getting paid like $30,000 a year to go out and be a cop. There's no budget in a lot of these small towns to have this as an option. So it's going to fall back on the cities, I think, the cities, counties, states, to come up with some kind of funding option for the smaller places, while places like Seattle will be able to fund it themselves.
Yeah, I mean, that makes a lot of sense. Like John said, our state is pretty like on top of things, especially now. So we're kind of at the top of the food chain, not food chain, but like we're looking good. Kind of like one of our more final questions. Are there any like common misconceptions about like police officers and departments that you hear just all the time and aren't true?
We've done a really good job of trying to diversify our police department. So the idea that we as a department don't necessarily represent the makeup of the city, yeah, that's a valid concern for a lot of departments. Not so much with Seattle anymore. We've done a really good job of hiring people who both come from the city and look like the people in the city. And a lot of people outside of Seattle might take offense to that. But you know what? It's going to make everybody's life in Seattle better. If you have a cop who shows up looking like you are more likely to connect with them and not have an issue later on. And that is our goal. We're not here to cause problems, we're here to resolve them. So having that connection immediately is vital for us. And I think that misconception that we just aren't a part of that community isn't necessarily a truism anymore, even though it probably was as recent as a decade ago.
In our research project, we were trying to find a solution to come to terms with everybody and how we can make everyone happy, the police officers and the citizens feeling safer, just because I think a lot of people were offended by defund the police and what that meant to them. We weren't sure if that was on the officer side or just some of the civilians. In that, we had a couple main points of building a community and building trust within the community. having like bonding type activities where we can see police officers and human people where they're not on their worst day, where they're on a good day and they can connect with each other on a good day and bond. And that, like, especially in like Black communities where the police trust is the lowest right now when surveyed. And our other solution was to add more budget for training activities and resources, which in Seattle, it sounds like you guys are doing a great job of that and don't need that. But what do you think about those two ideas?
I think they're great ideas. And I think they're both something that in Seattle we're trying to do with National Night Out, where we have the neighborhoods host these big get-togethers. So they get to go and see all of their neighbors and have that conversation about what's going on around them, which you may not have ever met your neighbors. That's a thing around here because people like to kind of shut themselves in and not have those tough conversations about what that guy 3 doors down is doing in his backyard underneath that blue tarp. Like that, it's just a little weird. We'd kind of like to keep to ourselves out here. So having those conversations, and then cops and firefighters and community officials all going to those gatherings so that we can hear those concerns and we can kind of go, okay, you know what? If that guy 3 doors down is actually cooking meth under that tarp, we should probably know. So if you see something, just give us a call. We can do an investigation. And if he's not, if he's just over there growing tomatoes under there, that's fine too. Like maybe we should have a talk with Joe who lives 3 doors down and not immediately jump to the idea that he's cooking meth under there, because both of those are, one's a questionable thing, one's totally fine and normal, but you don't know until you have that conversation with him. So we're having those days with National Night Out, and then we're also having what are they called? Picnics at the precincts. So we're inviting everybody to come to us, and we'll feed them, get them ice cream, and you can come in, you can see the precinct, you can talk to officers, you can ask them anything you want about what's going on, so that we can all have these conversations when you feel comfortable. So that when it's not the worst day of your life, when you're giving us a call because somebody broke in your front door and stole your PlayStation 5, that shouldn't be the first time you see a cop, right? They should be out there. They should be going door to door, saying hi. Hey, look, I'm Patrick Michaud. I work in your precinct, and if you see me driving around, you can wave to me. If you need to talk to me, you can always give me a call. I'm on next door. Here's my name. You can contact me that way and I can come out. So if you need to handle it that way, that's awesome. So those are 2 options that we have already. And again, we're always looking for new ways to do this. So having online meetings like this on Zoom, where we can have these community meetings. So in case somebody has to be at work, they can pull it up on their phone and they can have those conversations with us at their leisure instead of having to come to us. Because again, some people don't feel comfortable having these conversations in person, and they would like to be able to turn off the camera and just type in their question and have it answered because it's more comfortable for them. That's fine. No judgment. My kid would rather just sit in his room and type on his computer all day. I get it. So meeting people where they are is vital for us as a department to build trust in us so that we can do our job in the safest possible way for everybody in the neighborhood. And again, that's our goal. And then as far as the second part, which was, sorry, I spaced. I got talking and now I forgot what the second part was.
The second part, you're doing so good there. I forgot. The second part. So it was building like a bigger budget for training and resources.
Oh yes, training. So when it comes to budgeting, we have to work with the city council and the mayor's office and then the community as a whole to justify why that training is important. Like when we say all of our officers are crisis intervention trained, that's an ongoing thing. That is a perishable skill. And if you don't have officers out there having conversations with people on a daily basis who are in crisis, you don't want the first time to be when that person is standing on a ledge threatening to jump off of it. So we have to have these trainings consistently. We have to go and do use of force training consistently because it is a perishable skill. We are only as good as our training. And if our training is 3 years old in something, we're going to be pretty rusty at it when it comes around. So there's a greater risk of injury and failure on our part. And we don't want that. We want to be able to provide the best service possible as a department. So that training is extremely important. And the other part about training is a lot, you don't have as many to go out on patrol, right? Because if you don't want to pay officers overtime to go to training, that means they're doing it while they should be out answering 911 calls. So you would need additional resources to kind of backfill the officers who are in training that day so that you have a safe number. The more officers we lose, the less training we can do. And then it just becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy of we have poorly trained officers and not enough of them to answer 911 calls, and people get hurt because you have poorly trained officers and not enough of them to handle a call. And then the officers did bad because they weren't trained, and that's not their fault at that point, right? Because there just wasn't enough of them to handle 911 calls and not enough money for training. So it really puts us in a bad spot when they start taking money, because it takes money from the whole police department budget, which in the end is going to come from training, but that's something that we're trying really hard not to steal money from at this point. We're going to cut additional units before we cut training money. So things like our SWAT team might go away, our harbor unit might go away, our horses, our anti-crime team, which is already gone, our gang unit gone. We've kind of combined our anti-crime team and our gang unit. Half of each of those officers are now our gun violence task force, because that is extremely important in the city, because we had the most homicides in 20 years last year. So we have to be creative about how we handle the money issues, but when we don't have money to pay for training, other things are going to start being sacrificed. And that is something that we desperately are trying to avoid.
Yeah, it makes a lot of sense. I mean, I feel like Nick has a personal anecdote about how you can share it real quick if you want to, but
Yeah, I was just going to bring it up. You mentioned that the anti-crime unit got taken out.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so kind of last year when all this was starting to begin, my brother, he lives in Seattle. Him and his friends went out somewhere, and they parked their car on the street, and they came back, car was gone. And so they called the police like 3 different times. No one ever really showed up.
Yeah.
They actually ended up talking to this one neighbor who was like, oh yeah, cars get stolen on the street all the time. And so my brother started driving around in his own car and ended up finding the car that got stolen. And it was in front of this auto body shop with like a bunch of just big dudes out in front of it. And then the big dudes eventually went inside. So my brother's friend ran back to the car, hopped in, and stole it back. Yeah. Um, so they kind of like took matters into their own hands, but I was just like, I was kind of surprised that no one really showed up to the call, especially in a street where seems like there's a lot of crime that happens there. And so that must be because they took out the anti-crime unit.
Well, so when we have a bunch of calls, right, we have to prioritize everything. We're busy all day long. Like my radio is going off constantly right now. But when we have a bunch of calls stacked, we're going to go to the priority 1 and priority 2 calls, right? Those are life safety calls first. And I don't know what the situation was on the night your friend's car got stolen, your brother's friend's car got stolen. But it sounds like they went out, they were going out like on a Friday or Saturday night, is my guess. That's a busy couple of nights there for us. And if it's in a bar district or where they were going to see go to a club or something like that, yeah, it could be very busy. You get a shooting or a big fight or a stabbing. That's pretty much all of the officers that are on duty. They're all going to those calls. So yeah, a stolen car call might wait for a couple hours, 3-4 hours, which is, it's not cool, like no excuse, but we've got to handle the life safety stuff before we go handle the property crimes. And I think we as a department and as a city have come to grips with, sometimes you're gonna have to wait to get your car back if somebody is actively being injured. So while it's sad and upsetting that your friend's car got stolen, there's probably a reason. And if you gave me the case number, I could figure out exactly what was going on that night. But yeah, it's tough to know. And I'm sorry that happened. I'm glad he got his car back, but
Yeah,
I'm also glad he didn't get the crap kicked out of him by some big dudes at a auto body shop.
I think the antidote was more just, do we not have enough officers on duty then? Is that how can we get more officers on duty? And that starts with the lack of hiring. If people aren't going to want to come into the job, then from there, we're not going to have enough people on Friday or Saturday nights patrolling the streets.
Yeah.
Is there any way you think that we can lessen crime in Seattle? Is there any immediate ideas that you have personally, or is it just, it's always going to happen? But I didn't know if there's a way to.
Yeah, I mean, there's 2 ways to think about this. So whenever you have a major money people make, which there's a very wide range here in Seattle. There are going to be people that have stuff, and there's going to be people that need stuff. And that area in between is where crime happens. And the people over here that need stuff desperately need stuff, and they're going to get it. It's just, how are they going to go about that? Some of them, a small percentage of those people, are just going to take stuff, and crime happens that way, especially property crime. Violent crime in this area is almost 90% perpetrated by people that know each other. So they got a beef with somebody, there's domestic violence, they just know them in passing, but they know them. So it's all relationship based. And those crimes, I don't think there's any way to kind of resolve that. But the property stuff, the property crime that makes up the vast majority of crime here in Seattle, is something that we as a society kind of need to address, right? These people that need things, how do we get them those things without infringing upon and just taking from these people? And that's something that we need to figure out as a society. as a police department, that other side, right? We arrest them, and then they do the time for their crime. That's one way to solve it. But is it effective? And that's the recidivism rate for property crime is really high. And the reasoning behind that is kind of twofold. One, again, it goes back to money. Two, drugs. Three, mental health. In Washington, there's been a lack of resources for mental health for an extraordinarily long time, too long. Anybody who needs mental health care should be able to get it easily, but they can't. Drug use, speaking from my own family's personal experience, getting them into treatment didn't work for that person. But getting them into prison, where it was forced rehabilitation, worked for them. Clean for 5 years now. And she's doing great. She's got a kid, taking care of herself. It's awesome. But finding that solution took time. And not everybody's solution is going to be the same. So we need to come up with additional tools and methods to help everybody that needs it. And I think that's the only way you kind of solve those pieces of that puzzle. But getting rid of crime as a whole, I don't think that's ever going to happen. As much as I wish it would.
Yeah, I mean, if that happened, then we wouldn't need a police department. So
Right. Again, I'd be more than happy to find a different job.
yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I think that's mostly what we got. John, do you have any other questions you want to ask?
No, I don't think so. Let me read over my notes one last time. Oh yeah, that's everything for me. Thank you so much for meeting with us and sharing
Yeah.
from the inside of the department. I think that's something, especially, I mean, people in general lack, but especially high schoolers lack.
Yeah.
I know a lot of people that tense up when they drive by a police officer.
Me too.
But I think that one more like little quick question just for fun at the end. So how fast does somebody need to be going to get pulled over these days?
That is totally up to the officer. The law says you can't go above a certain speed, right? But due to variations in calibration for cars, you'd probably be safe up to 5 miles an hour over. I can't recommend it, but I mean, yeah.
Yeah, I just had to throw that out there at the end.
Always got to get a little bit insight on it.
No, that's good.
Thank you so much again.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
if you guys have any follow-up questions, you can always email me or call me. Not a big deal.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
Awesome. Thank you. This was fantastic. Thank you.
All right, guys. Good luck on your project.
All right.
Thanks.
All right.
Have a good day.
You too.